Thank you for taking this additional time. So, as I think people who watched our conversation could tell, I wanted to delve into sort of structural issues around cable news. And then afterwards, you tweeted out, be like, hey, I looked at my journal, and it turns out there was a list of candidates that we weren't meant to seek out interviews with, and you were one of them. And I'd have to say, I think I and many people who supported me kind of sensed that, but I didn't want to put you on the spot when we were talking on the podcast, because frankly, I didn't want to seem like I just had an axe to grind. Like I'm more interested in trying to figure out what the structural incentives and problems are than anything that had to do with my campaign. But first, let me say thank you so much for reviewing your notes and unearthing that piece of information. It did mean a lot to me and people who supported me.
Of course. Now, it's frustrating because there were things every day that I was watching happen that didn't seem right to me. And so in one way, them telling us, who they want to go after and who they don't want to go after, it was just kind of just another normal day, sadly. But I saw something, after you tweeted, we were doing an interview today, someone said something about reference the primaries, and it reminded me of that, conversation that we'd had. So I wasn't sure, I'm still all buxed up, from my move to Virginia, and I wasn't sure I was going to be able to find my notes, but I did. And there was a list of candidates, and next to your name, it said never to pursue you. And
shockingly, I never did actually go on that show.
No, and I vaguely remember there was a time when I think you were planning to come on, or something happened and it fell through. And I honestly can't remember what happened or when that happened, but
well, you worked on Last Word with Lawrence O'Donnell, which was one of the top shows on the channel, so my team was always trying to get me on. I think there was a point when I was supposed to go on, and then something fell through that you're describing. I don't remember if there was anything on one side or the other, but I do remember some of those interactions just secondhand.
And a big question that comes up is why, and, what was behind that decision. And at the time that day, they didn't go through, one by one and say, we want this person for that reason, or we want this person for that reason, or we don't want that person for X, Y, or Z. If I have to reflect on, their position in general, it's that they wanted candidates who evoke some sense of intrigue, and not that you didn't, but they are trying. There were times when Beto O'Rourke was, kind of someone who they, really wanted to get on the show, and there are times when he really wasn't, and it kind of like, there wasn't a lot of rhyme or reason there, but I can tell you that, a lot of the discussion wasn't about policy and what's, let's dive into this person's, policies. They might say that that's what they wanted to do, but that almost never happened. And in the editorial meetings, that also was not something that came up. Like I don't remember hearing a discussion about universal basic income. Well, and if nothing else, even if you weren't on, it should have been something that was discussed. And that's part of like my big gripe with the whole process and the role that we played, and, to a large extent, the irony that MSNBC fouled things up like they did. And it's like, again, and it was systemic, it's just across the board and for all the wrong reasons.
So Ariana, I'm getting some questions in the chat box because some people hadn't actually seen our online video. So for reference, everyone, Ariana was an MSNBC producer for almost 7 years. She worked on Last Word with Lawrence O'Donnell, among other shows. I interviewed her for my podcast, so we have a full hour-long conversation. Please do check it out. And Ariana publicly left MSNBC because of issues with the way cable news gets constructed. I found her to be extraordinarily courageous and admirable, making that kind of move professionally, which obviously, is considered a very, very highly risky move. And to do so publicly, where she said, look, here are my concerns with the way cable news gets put together. And then she also referenced a memo that she got in April of 2019 saying there's a list of candidates that you should and should not seek out for interviews. And I was on the don't seek out list. so that hence this follow-up. Ariana, I know a lot of people are asking, I think, two questions. Number one, was there any dynamic that affected Bernie similarly in 2016 or 2020? Yeah, we'll stop there for a sec.
I don't know how to explain what was behind Bernie Sanders. And I think my sense is there's some, and I certainly can't speak for the whole network, but I can say, in 2016, we requested him regularly to come on the show. And I don't think he ever appeared with Lawrence O'Donnell. And I think some of that might go back, again, this is just pure speculation, but I think some of that might go back to the relationship. Lawrence worked in the Senate. And so I think there might be some old lingering relationship. I don't know why Bernie never agreed to come on, or maybe he thought it wasn't a genuine request. I don't know what was there, but, and in general, I feel like Bernie is, kind of a person of intrigue, if you will. And I don't know, if nothing else, why we didn't cover him and his policies more, even if he didn't come on as a guest himself. I feel like there definitely could have been more discussion that wasn't there, both times. So it's really hard for me to get a grip on how the network handled Bernie, and then how our show in particular handled him.
No, just curious. And the second thing that a number of people were asking online was, do you remember who else was on the don't reach out for an interview list aside from me? Like, who was in the Andrew Yang camp?
Yeah. I mean, in general, the people who they pursued consistently were the, top, quote unquote, top tier, the ones who were polling highest. So, Biden and Elizabeth Warren and Kamala Harris. I don't remember exactly, that it was in sync with where they were polling. But yeah, the others, there were senators, from what I recall, Bennett. I don't think they wanted to have on at that time. Inslee. And, they might have said, we never want this person on, but, 2 weeks later, if someone does something that's interesting and they're like in the news, or, they would have them on, because that's, the dynamic changes. But I'm trying to remember, it wasn't necessarily like, you're an establishment person, you're good, or you're not an establishment person and we don't want you on. There wasn't a clear delineation. And I think there was like a question mark next to Gillibrand. And I know later on that I don't think that she ever came on the show. I might be getting myself in trouble, but I don't think that she ever came on the show.
So fascinating, Ariana. It was interesting because, I campaigned alongside Senator Bennett and Senator Gillibrand and Jay Inslee, and I know certainly Michael Bennett was always like, "Why is no one paying any attention?" There was,
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing a piece of information that I know a lot of people were very, very curious about. Again, extraordinarily courageous on your part. Really appreciate it. And I hope people are responding positively to our conversation. I hope you're continuing to get the sort of support that you deserve. I think that you are one of a kind. I can't think of another figure in at least my recollection, who's left like a major network because of like some of these issues. And there are so many Americans who are deeply concerned about what is going on with our media. Like we sense that there is like, a commercial aspect that is pushing our coverage in particular directions that are not necessarily good for us.
And I hate to say this, but I'm not proud of very much of the work I did at MSNBC, which kind of stinks to spend so much time in a place. And I think there probably is a legitimate question, why didn't I come out sooner and say something sooner? And that is something that I struggled with. And that's why I started reaching out to people, a couple of years ago. And when I was reaching out, it was kind of like a cry, because I'm like, they're screwing things up right now and something needs to be done. And I reached out to former colleagues, former bosses, but also, I was looking to larger institutions like, the Harvard Nieman Foundation and Stanford, the Knight Fellowship, looking, saying, that this is something that's happening now and it's a crisis. And I was not getting a reaction of support. And so I really thought that, like, if I were to come out and say something, no one was going to listen to me. And I wasn't sure the level of, that people cared. And so and when I posted my resignation statement online, I didn't think that anyone was going to really read it. At that point, I was flabbergasted by the reaction that it got, but I'm heartened by that, and I wish I had done that sooner. I apologize.
No, not again, Ariana. I mean, there are a lot of people that are in your shoes that never actually take the steps you took, and the fact is, like, you left like a very, very stable, sought after job, and stepped into the void, which to me is like a huge matter of principle. Like a lot of folks who are looking out for number one, like, would never make the move you made without having some way to capitalize on it, frankly. You know what I mean? And you have not. Like, you've just put a blog post and since then have just been at home, and it's been months. And I can tell from our conversation that you just simply did what you thought was right. I'm so grateful to you for sharing that information about me being on like the do not interview list. There was like a real sense of confusion on my part and my campaign's part about why it seemed like MSNBC wasn't covering us in a way that I thought like would have made sense. I guess. Mm-hmm. And so there was like a real sense of relief, I think, for many people that, it wasn't us somehow conjuring something up that wasn't there. So thank you.
Well, of course, you're welcome. And again, I think, it wasn't something against you personally, but in terms of the policy, they just don't like to have policy discussions. Like, I've heard them say numerous times, like, that's too far in the weeds. They think they're going to lose the audience. And so it's an uphill battle. As far as that goes. I was too wonky, Ariana. Too many numbers. Too many. But I think people want that. I think people actually crave that. So I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know what world we're living in. Some people want that. So if you have not tuned into my hour-long conversation with Ariana in more detail, it's up at Yang Speaks right now. Ariana, please do again consider me someone who cares deeply about the issues that you're calling out. And I want to do everything I can to help. I know you do too. So we'll be in touch very, very soon, I'm sure. Great. Okay. Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving if I don't see you. Thank you. Yes. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We must give thanks for Andrew Yang and all the good work that you do. Oh, that's so nice of you. I'm thankful for you. We're lucky to have you. I like you. No. We need more people at Principal out there. See you all soon. Happy holidays. Take care. Put the money in our hands. 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 Can we afford it? Yes. Will it cause inflation?
No. Is it awesome? Yes. Is anyone trying to make it happen? Yeah, that guy.